Hi, it's Nell, and I am glad that you have joined me at my potting table on this beautiful spring day because I'm about to embark on a repotting marathon. And first up is the beautiful Arrowhead plant, whose genus is Syngonium. So if you're interested to see the mix I use and how I repot this, stick around for that. So if you like big videos about gardening and houseplants, plants, succulents, all that sort of good stuff, be sure to subscribe because I upload a new video for you every week, and there are plenty of old ones to go back through if you are new to this channel. So I just want to do a quick close-up on this plant because it is so pretty. Gorgeous foliage, and you can also see how thick it's growing. There's a lot of new growth in there, right around there, all over there. So it is going to appreciate a bigger base. So first thing to know about this plant is that it actually can grow slightly pot bound just fine, but there's a few reasons why I am repotting this plant. And one is because it is getting really tight in this pot. I can feel it's really heavy. The roots are very thick. And also when I buy a new plant, this is not a new plant, but when I buy plants, I oftentimes repot them right away. I didn't get around to it with this one because oftentimes the growers will just use the straight mix all the way across the board for all their plants, or perhaps the plant has been in this mix for a long time and it is just time to change it out. And also I have this plant as a floor plant because I don't have a lot of table space for plants anymore. I'm going to have to get plant shelves or start hanging more plants because there just isn't enough room. But this one actually makes a nice floor plant because it has such beautiful foliage that you look down on, and it's nice and bushy. This one is Bold Allusion, the variety, so it doesn't really trail all that much. It's a fairly low, full one. Some of them will actually trail quite a bit, but this one doesn't tend to do that too much at all. And another reason I'm going to show you right now. So here's another reason I'm repotting this plant is because the roots are coming out the bottom. Those really thick roots that this plant has. So it's time. So I have a lot of plants to replant this spring, so I don't know if I'm going to show all of them to you because I have so many, but I'm going to show you quite a few. And this one I found likes to be more humid than the pothos. Doesn't require quite as much, humidity. Of course, there's none here in the desert, except when it rains, but it's still doing fine nonetheless. That's why I want to plant mine with a nice, really rich mix, and it does like a rich mix. So what I've done is I've put organic potting soil in here. It's a really good one. It's Ocean Forest. It's by Smart Naturals Fox Farm. It actually doesn't have any soil in it. For houseplants, you want a soil-less potting mix. And so I've got some of that. I have a little bit of charcoal because I just always have charcoal on hand, and charcoal aids in the drainage, and it also sweetens the soil in case it gets a little too wet and smells, but I just like to use it to up the ante on the drainage. And then I have cocoa coir in here, cocoa coir and cocoa coir chips and fiber, because it is an environmentally more correct alternative to peat moss. So I like to add that in, and I think I am going to add a little bit of pumice in here too. These nice big chunks of pumice, which I'm going to use to make that DIY succulent cactus mix I've been promising. that's up in the next set of videos I'm doing. But just to make sure that it drains well, because it's also going to have quite a bit of compost in here. I put a good handful here, and the mix is up to about here. This is an 8-inch pot, and this here is a 6-inch pot. So I'm going up a pot size. So even though the mix is really rich, it likes a really rich mix. It likes to drain well, and that's what all these things in here are going to aid in the drainage, because the coco coir actually does aerate it, but it also feeds it too along with the compost. So for you, if you didn't want to put all this, I call this my voodoo potting soil mix, you know, all these different things I use. If you didn't want to do that, you could just use a good potting soil, preferably organic, and add some coco coir to that. And if you have some perlite, you could throw in a few handfuls of that. And that would be suitable for this plant. Alrighty, now it is time to get the plant out of the pot. And oops, maybe I'll get a little bit closer for this, because you should see the pot when I'm doing this and not my face. Okay, there we go, much better. So what I like to do, boy, this is it's in there. I press firmly but gently on this to get it out of the pot, and hopefully it is going to just pull out now. Here it comes. Ah, there we go. Ah, man, oh man. There are the roots. You can see how thick they are, and they're all sort of bunched up there at the bottom. So this is going to be very happy to have a bigger growing base. Alrighty, on to the planting. I was going to take a picture for the blog of how robust the root system is, and I thought, why not show you close up? And speaking of blog, there is a blog post to go along with this video. It'll have the materials used in there, so I will leave the link for the blog post down below for you. Okay, get my gloves back on, and because the roots are so tight, I'm going to just loosen them gently a bit. It's like giving the plant a gentle massage. So I'm just going to sort of separate them a bit so that they aren't all clumped up together when they get into their new home base. Okay. Wow. All right, you just go out over here, out of my way. So let's see how close I've gotten. Oh, that's going to be just fine. I'm going to just scoot a little bit of this over to the side. And now I'm going to fill in mainly with the potting soil, a little bit of compost, and a little bit of coco coir. Okay, so I'm taking a little break before I do the last couple steps here to tell you that spring and summer are the best times to repot this plant. If you live in a temperate climate like I do, or where I used to live on the coast of California, Florida, early fall is fine. You just want to do it. I always try and do my repotting at least 6 weeks before the colder weather hits, because when it's wintertime, the plants like to rest. They don't like to be disturbed. So this is a great time to do it. And this plant will probably just go, wah! Now it's already a pretty good size for the 6-inch pot. I really like this plant. So I hope that it likes its new base here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to fill in the top with potting soil. I got a little bit of the compost. I put about a 1/2 inch of compost layer all the way around. Hello. Hello. I live at the end of a dead-end street. It's really quiet. There's just a wash there. But the UPS man just came by because there's condos or townhomes over other side of the wash, and he didn't want to drive around, so I got a little distracted. So here's the final step here. If you're new to transplanting or repotting plants, you know, whatever you want to call it, you're going to make a mess. It's just how it goes. So if you live in an apartment, just lay an old sheet down and work on that. And then when you're through, especially if you're in a high rise and you can open up the window, just sprinkle the dirt out. No, just kidding. So I like to feed my house plants with compost and worm compost in the spring, and seeing it is spring, I'm going to top this one with a fine layer of worm compost. You don't have to do this, it's optional, but I will leave the link to the blog post and the video down below that I did about how I feed my house plants with this. And because I'm in a climate now where where plants grow so fast, I am going to be feeding my plants probably at the end of July, but I'm going to be feeding them with a different mix. It's a liquid mix, so stay tuned for that when I do it, just because I think they're just growing like crazy in the heat here. So anyway, okay, so that's it on the repotting of this plant, and now it should be good for about 2 years because you don't need to repot them every year. As you can see, the roots are really thick, but you want to wait until it is slightly pot bound, not like it's stressed, but slightly pot bound is okay with this plant. So I'll just, that's a good thing about being in like a grow pot. I can look and see, the roots. This one has fairly big, I don't want to turn the newly transplanted plant halfway upside down. That is not a smart idea. But this one has bigger drain holes than the other one, so I will be able to see those roots, and then I can judge when I need to repot it next. But I'm thinking, as I said, in about 2 years. So before the grand finale, I want to tell you a little bit about what I'm going to do with this plant now. Here in Tucson, it is about 80s in the daytime, low 80s, with a lot blooming and a lot of pollen, plus the mixes I've been using here. And the evenings are in the high 50s. So I am going to put this plant outside underneath the shade of my pink grapefruit tree for like a couple days, and I'm going to water it really well. I want this mix to be thoroughly moistened before I bring it in the house, and sometimes that takes a little while, so I'm going to give it a couple rounds of watering, and it will enjoy. Oops, I don't know why I'm putting it over there. It's a star of the show. And it will enjoy its watering, because when a plant is this pot bound too, I found when the roots are this tight, it needs more water because it has a hard time taking the water in. And one thing that I forgot to tell you is to not transplant or repot a plant that is really, really dry. You want to make sure that it is watered before you do it. I watered this plant well yesterday so that it had a nice moist, root ball, so that it wasn't a dry, stressed root ball going into dry mix. So, as I said, this plant should be one happy camper now. So it's got tons and tons of, I can see now, looking down on it even more, and looking down on it carefully, I should say, there's a ton of new growth in here. So that's what this form is known for, being very full and very lush and very gorgeous. So now you are going to be a rapid grower. I'm tired. It's been a busy week. It's been a really busy week. I don't like the word busy, but there's been a lot going on this week, and it's Saturday afternoon. I have a lot of repotting to do. So if I say anything even crazier than usual, just say, okay, she really needs a nap. Oh, and there's one other thing I wanted to tell you too. I'm going to be doing a care video on this plant. I've only grown it here in Tucson for about 4 months now. It's relatively new here. I've grown them on the coast of California, which is a different climate. There is more humidity there, so I want to grow it here for at least 7 or 8 more months before I do a care video on it, because I figure if things do relatively well in this dry climate, they will most likely do well in your homes also. So I hope you have found this video about repotting, transplanting, planting an arrowhead plant, aka Syngonium, aka NEPHTHYTIS, to be helpful. It's a great plant. It's a beautiful plant. And speaking of beautiful plants, I have a lot more videos coming your way, so stay tuned for those. A lot on repotting. I'm sort of on a repotting marathon these days, but if you like plants, gardening, house plants, all that kind of stuff, be sure to come back for more. I thank you for all your likes and your subscribes. I really appreciate them. I thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye.